Okay, how every NBA team can trade its worst contract. Oh, and just real quick, with revisiting the Harden trade yesterday, I should have mentioned the possibility of the Rockets taking on like Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, but based on everything I've read, they never seriously considered doing that. I do think some of these are a little more interesting than others, so I don't know if we're going to look at every single one. The Hawks, John Collins. If the Hawks opted to trade Collins for better roster balance, the Celtics seem like a reasonable option. Marcus Smart and draft picks. I don't know if that's really enough for John Collins. To me, what the Hawks did with the Collins contract is they were like, we'll give him the money, and if a star player becomes available, he can be our main dude that we can throw into trade talks. Now, I guess it becomes a little more interesting if John Collins is just a 14-point scorer around Trae Young, setting him, getting a million screens from Capella, Bogdanovich, and Gallo, taking more shots. We'll have to see. The Celtics with Al Horford, and they mentioned if the Celtics didn't have a worse contract, as in Kemba's they had to unload, then they wouldn't get him. The Charlotte Hornets might value his versatility. A package of Plumlee, Kelly Oubre Jr., and filler. So I know that Oubre and Plumlee both have non-guaranteed options for the last year of their deals, which is after this upcoming season. Would that be less than the Celtics buying out Horford's $14 million partially guaranteed option? The Hornets, Gordon Hayward. This one breaks my heart. Tricky thing with Hayward is he's arguably worth the money when healthy. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, a Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons. So what, Gordon Hayward and a first for Ben Simmons? Do you think the Sixers would take that? Ben Simmons and LaMelo? That's kind of wild. My gut tells me that's not going to happen. Kevin Love. How are they going to manage to get off of Kevin Love's money? A deal sending Kevin Love and Colin Sexton for Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole to the Warriors. The Warriors would have to really, really love Colin Sexton. And they would have to think he's better than Wiggins. And I do think the Warriors are decently high on Wiggins, given his improvement as a defender this last season. And he was more efficient on offense. Not only that, but the size is something that I think the Warriors would really covet with Wiggins as opposed to with Sexton. Porzingis. Okay, similar to Kevin Love. How you getting Porzingis out of there? Let's see, the Wizards. They might be willing to move Davis Bertans, Thomas Bryant, and Isaiah Todd. So you're swapping two not great contracts. I mean, I think the Bertans contract, in terms of how much they're paying him per year, is fine. The problem is the length of the deal. Thomas Bryant, interesting young player. Of course, he was dealing with the ACL. We don't know exactly when he's going to be back this year. Isaiah Todd, I'm not going to act like I know much about him. I don't know. Is that the best that the Mavs could get for Porzingis, is somebody who's also not on that good of a contract? Because if so, the best thing might just be to try to get Porzingis to work, unless you get to the point where it's like, this really could not work at all. But to be fair, I mean, Bertans would at least embrace just shooting threes. Whereas Porzingis, he wants to do more than that. John Wall. This is my favorite make-believe scenario in the league. If there's a world in which you can get off of John Wall's money. To be fair, it's only got 2 years left. Only, quote-unquote. They probably now need to move multiple firsts to get rid of him. If they're willing to make that sacrifice, I doubt they are. A package of Wall and at least 2 future firsts might incentivize San Antonio to part with DeJounte Murray. I don't think Spurs fans would like that at all. And I agree. I don't think the Spurs should do that. I mean, those picks would have to be some damn good picks. And I mean, if there are a couple of Nets picks, I don't think that's worth it. I'm pretty damn high on DeJounte. I don't know if he can be like a multi-time All-Star, but I think he could get to, let's say, like Mike Conley levels, where everybody knows he's one of the better winners in the league and can be like maybe not the best player on a really good team, but kind of like the leader of the team, if you will. Devontae Graham for the Pelicans. Is his contract even that bad? I mean, it's 4 years, 37.5 guaranteed. Oh, it's another Celtics one for Marcus Smart. Flip him and a future first to the Celtics for Smart. I mean, look, I already said I'm scared of the Marcus Smart extension just because I'm a little fearful of his defense not getting back to what it's been in the best times of his career, but he also had a positive test and he was hurt last season. So I would probably say no, especially because the Celtics need as many guys like Smart as possible. Just guys who are going to be the the leaders, because Tatum and Jalen, I don't think they're totally there yet as vocal leaders and all that. And also, you need somebody who's all about defense. The Knicks, Evan Fournier. Sending Fournier and a future first to the Kings for Harrison Barnes would remove a liability shot creator in Sacramento. I could picture the Kings doing that if they felt like Harrison Barnes just wasn't going to stay when his contract is eventually out. But I think Barnes is better than Fournier. But I also think a future first for the Knicks might be more valuable to hold on to than using it for Barnes. I guess it would depend on protections. For the Magic, Gary Harris. I think if Gary Harris bounces back offensively this year, makes his threes again, and just has some semblance as a guy you can run some sort of offense through, then I do think he becomes a kind of interesting trade deadline guy. That said, he is on a $20 million contract. It is expiring, so if somebody's got some contract they don't really love and the Magic could get something back, I think it's interesting, but who knows? I mean, the guy averaged, 17 points a game one season. Nuggets gave him the contract, and since then had a couple injuries, some roster shuffling around with the Nuggets, and suddenly it's like, what happened to this guy's offense? And the Trailblazers, Norman Powell. I think the Blazers are all in on Powell, but what do you got? The Blazers might get similar production without the long-term costs by sending Powell to Indiana for TJ Warren and Jeremy Lamb. My gut tells me that both teams would just be kind of chill on not doing that. The Raptors, Pascal Siakam. Anchor a trade for Ben Simmons? Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I have said this one before too. Like, if the Raptors really want Ben Simmons, I do think they could make maybe the best offer out of anybody. Between Van Vliet, Anunoby, Siakam, no, they would not trade all three of those guys. But whatever combo of those three it is, if they really wanted him, I don't think they're really going to do it, though. Well, here's another one. It could shop Siakam to the T-Wolves for Malik Beasley, Taurean Prince, couple of future firsts. How many picks have the Wolves traded at this point? They already didn't have their pick from this previous draft. I don't think that's a good move for the Raptors.